Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear friends, students, and esteemed researchers, we are excited to announce the launch of a video lecture series on mediation and moderation models. Starting today, we will explore various types of mediation, moderation, and moderated mediation models using real data sets for practical demonstration. In this connection, our today's discussion is on mediation, simple mediation. And then at length, we'll be discussing the parallel mediation. So let's begin with the concept and the background of the mediation. According to Andrew Hayes, the mediation analysis is a statistical method used to understand how a variable X influences another variable Y through one or more intermediary variables M. Now, these intermediaries represent the process connecting X and Y based on the researcher's idea of their relationships. Mediation models should be developed and justified based on theory, as other models might also explain the data equally well or even better. This analysis helps test if the proposed model is a reasonable explanation for the relationship between X and Y. If the model does not fit the data well, it can be dismissed. On the other hand, if the model fits the data adequately, it is not only rejected, but should still be considered tentative. Now look at this diagram, the simple mediation model. This diagram indicates a simple mediation, figure 1, and figure 2 indicates the two mediators, which is also known as the parallel mediation. In this simple mediation, path A, if you look at, let me show you the another diagram with proper symbol A, B, and C. Now, if you read this diagram very carefully, this is a conceptual model of simple mediation, where X is the antecedent variable and Y is the subsequent variable or the outcome variable. And M is the proposed mediator. So causal relationship in this model goes like this. X influences M through A, and X influences Y through paths C, C prime, which is also known as the direct effect. M influences Y through path B. So A, B, and C prime, they are very important indicators of the effects. So total effect of X on Y consists of actually the two effects. One is known as the direct effect, the other is known as the indirect effect, which are measured by these two equations, by the estimation of these two equations. For example, when we estimate these two equations, the estimated value of A, B, and C prime, they actually measure the effect. So for example, C prime indicates the direct effect of X on Y, and A multiplied by B, the product of a path A and B. These are two coefficients which obviously are measured with the help of these two mathematical equations. So product of A and B is known as the indirect effect, and C prime is known as the indirect effect. So we measure these coefficients with the help of the equations which are indicated in these two equations. For example, in the first equation, M0 is the intercept, which is the value of M when the value of X is 0. And A is the slope parameter, which measures the effect of X on M, and mu M is the residual or the random variable, or the stochastic variable. Y in the second equation is the dependent variable. Now in this second equation, two variables become the independent variables, for example, X and M. So just for simplicity, we are using a symbol M0 just to depict the relationship with measurement of mediation. and y naught is the intercept term for the second equation, for which the dependent variable is y. When it comes to the parallel mediation, for example, in here in this equation, this one. So here, when we are estimating the relationship of x and y with the help of two mediators, for example, this one, if you focus on this, I will be explaining it. When there are two mediators, in fact, you will be estimating the three equations, m1, m2, and y. Now, if you look at, just focus on this. So x affects m1 through a1, m1 affects y through b1, x affects m2 through a2, and m2 affects y through path b2. The indirect effects here, indirect effect is measured in two parts. The first part of the indirect effect is a1 and b1, the product of these two, a1 multiplied by b1, that quantifies the indirect effect of x on y through m1. The product of a2, b2 quantifies the indirect effect of x on y through m2. The total indirect effect here in this case is the addition of a1, b1, a2, b2. So a1, b1 plus a2, b2, that shows the total indirect effect. So the total effect, therefore, will be the addition of this one. Total indirect effect plus direct effect makes the total effect. So total effect is equal to this, in parentheses is the total indirect effect, and C prime is known as the directive measure of the direct effect. But the difference between this parallel mediation and simple mediation is that in simple mediation, you measure the direct effect by C prime and the indirect effect from the product of A and B. But when there are more mediations, then the indirect effect is actually divided into multiple paths. A1, B1 is the first, and A2, B2 is the second. So the C equation. Now we will be moving on to a very important concept. Generally, people in the business school strongly believe in the Barron and Kenny approach. But Andrew Hayes criticizes this approach on obviously logical grounds. So according to Hayes, researchers using Barron-Kenny's causal steps approach typically start with the total effects model to check if there is a connection between X and Y. I repeat, researchers check the connection between X and Y according to Barron-Kenny approach before testing for the mediation. The assumption is that if X has no effect on Y, there is no point in proceeding further. But Andrew Hayes criticizes this approach extensively in his book published in 2022. Particularly, this approach, according to Andrew Hayes, Barron-Kenny approach is flawed on the assumption that X must significantly affect Y for mediation to occur. This is quite logical, contrary to the Kenny's approach. Therefore, the estimation of connection between X and Y is not particularly the relevant relevant requirement for testing the mediation. So this is the basic concept of mediation, simple mediation and parallel mediation. We can add more mediators in the model. We stop here. So in the next video, we'll be estimating these models with the help of the real data set. Thank you for watching.